Welcome to the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast. Brought to you by TurboPass USA. Featuring conversations with successful auto industry influencers and innovators, sharing tips and strategies to help make the car buying experience less stressful and more enjoyable. With your host, Patrick Jarman.
Welcome back to the Auto Dealer Influencers Podcast, brought to you by TurboPass USA. I am your co-host today, Marco Salinas, and I've got my other co-host joining me today, Mr. Patrick Jarman.
Say hello. Hello.
Today, we're excited to bring you a conversation with another successful auto industry influencer and innovator. And on this show, we talk with some of the most experienced and accomplished professionals in the auto industry to learn their tips, their strategies, and their insights. Joining us today, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Rahim Bhimani of Motorvation Trucks. Rahim is actually the general manager there, and Motorvation Trucks is actually based in Jonesboro, Georgia. And so we've got Mr. Rahim here with us. We're going to be asking him some questions. We want to learn a little bit more about him and his background in the auto industry. And so we are super excited to have you with us here, Rahim. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Marco. I appreciate you guys for having me here. It's very humbling to be on this podcast with you guys, man.
Awesome, man. The honor is honestly all ours, man. So we're really excited to talk with you. So let's jump right into the conversation, Rahim, if you don't mind, man. We want to learn a little bit more about you and how you've made a name for yourself in the auto industry.
Awesome, man.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I found Motorvation on Craigslist. I was just rebounding from losing a job as a detailer at a different dealership. Found Motorvation on Craigslist. They had a detail position open, put in my name and info, all that. Next day, owner calls me, hey, can you be here for a 10 o'clock interview? And that's how I found Motorvation. I started here washing cars from them in our downtown location. And really the way I was able to build up with Motorvation was just coming in and doing a little bit more than the next guy would have. This easily could have been anybody sitting at the seat that was a little bit hungry. And I just took a situation where I was dealt a pair of cards and just try to make the best out of it. I didn't know anything about the dealership industry. I knew how to clean some cars. I knew how to work on cars a little bit, but I had no idea of this behemoth of industry. So yeah, I joined them. Car washing turned into helping out here and there. We really used to be more of a wholesale operation where we would just generally only sell to dealers. And I saw that, one, I was blessed to have a super awesome owner that really saw that I had something, that wanted to elevate me and gave me the opportunity to grow more than just washing cars. But I saw a need where he would be outside with all his dealers, right? We would imagine it's hot outside. There's two 18-wheelers pulled up, dropping off trucks fresh from the auction to us. And we got 6, 7, 8 dealers in the parking lot, gravel lot, saying, okay, I'm going to grab that one. I'm going to grab that one. I'm going to grab that one. But the one thing I saw while I was out there helping them move vehicles is they would tell him whichever ones he wants, right? And then he would write those down. And then they would go back inside. And then they would start discussing the information, the pricing and things like that. And I just felt like I wanted to help him because he was helping me, right? He gave me this opportunity and everything like that. And we didn't really have that many vehicles, right? We had 10, 15 vehicles or whatever the case was. So one day I spent a couple minutes and I just made him a list. And on the list was the year, make, model, how much we had in the vehicle, was it gas, was it diesel, whatever. And I just said, hey man, I see you outside. Seemed like you need this list. And it was something so simple, right? That anybody could have done. And he saw this and he was like, why don't you just use the list? Why don't you just go talk? And that just turned into me helping out the dealers. And then it turned into from there, we're like, why are we waiting for the vehicles to get here? And then to call them to get here, why don't we just send out a text blast? And that turned into, okay, instead of taking so long on that, let's just text everybody when the vehicles are coming and what's coming. And then we'll just sell them before they get here. And then this could just be a pickup and drop off location. And then that turned into, well, like, why are we selling to other people that are selling to other people and making way more money than?
Yeah.
Just cut out the middleman and just sell it straight to the public. And that was probably our first, you can say, like, innovative idea at Motorvation of going to retail. But just back to how I got in the industry, it was just with the help of Motorvation, just being a small, young company that was just eager for growth and having an owner that was trustworthy and that was open to helping us, open to helping everybody here take that move. I remember having a conversation with him of, man, I don't want to go into sales. And because I don't want to have a commission-based job, I don't want to have a day where I don't get a paycheck. And him just pushing me into it, like, dude, what are you doing? This is what you got to do. So yeah, shortly thereafter, he pushed me into sales. That was some of the best times I've ever had in my life, just serving people, helping people get vehicles, things that just learned. That's really where I learned the industry, was just in the sales part of it. And then from there, just duplicating what I could do in the sense of a sales manager. And then the door opened itself where the company needed a leader. And I felt like I was fit to step into that role. The owner thought I was a good potential, you could say, to try it out. And here we are about a year later where I'm able to run the company.
So when we say started from the bottom, now we're here, you're living that. Huh? You really did do that.
Absolutely, man.
That's phenomenal, man. I had no idea that, because, okay, so a little backstory. Patrick knows you pretty well. You guys have had some interactions. I'm the one that's new to y'all's world and to what you're doing. So I had no idea that you came in as the car washer guy. And then you come in and you start saying, why don't we try this? Why don't we implement that? And these guys were actually open to listening to you, right? Like they were like, you know what, maybe he's on. So in addition to pushing you, they're listening to you as well. Is that right?
It was really just like that. And it was crazy because I'm usually not the idea, but it was just something that I saw. And then really, I guess, having that courage because really not even that courage, it really motivation being that place where it's still like true to its core. It's still like that today. Where I go to an owner or a boss or a manager, this guy who runs this company and say, hey, what about if we did this, right? In any of my other jobs, I wouldn't have dared gone to any owner, any manager, anybody with any sort of idea. But that comfort was there where it was like, hey, I can bring this idea to him, knowing that it's one, just not going to get slapped down, but two, like it would actually help and it actually could be used.
Were there any challenges when you were leading projects and initiatives that weren't someone else's idea?
That's a really good question, Patrick. I think those challenges are even there today, but I really, because of the culture that the company has, which is to listen to new ideas, to adapt to new ways. So it's always been a little bit less here than anywhere else, but absolutely, especially when I was on the sales floor, just my ideas were so totally different than the average salesperson of get the customer in, just the basic stuff that nobody wants to be a part of. I just didn't know that side of the business. So I was just so different in it anyway. And all my ideas, just the way it worked in my head was just so different. In my head, it wasn't, you get the customer in and sell them the vehicle after. For me, it was like, let me just make sure I have a vehicle to sell them and then invite them in. So everything in my head was just so backwards, but that's just how it made sense to me. Cause I guess I went into it with a consumer minded because that's who I was at the time. I wasn't a salesperson. I wasn't somebody who was an innovator in the industry, just a consumer that happened to work at a dealership.
That is phenomenal, man. I love the perspective that you bring in from that. Because basically what you're telling me is that you guys were doing things outside the box. That was what you were bringing to the table. Like everybody else this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. And Rahim, no, man, I'm going to come in from a fresh perspective from really from what our end client is looking at things from that point of view, right? And then let's make some adjustments based on that. Rahim, in your experience or in your opinion, what are some of the more important skills or qualities for a successful auto dealership besides what we just touched on right there? In addition to thinking outside the box, because you've already proven that to be a vital strategy.
That's definitely a loaded question.
It's loaded, yeah.
If I had to pick a few things where I feel like it would make all the difference, and if you had nothing else but maybe these qualities or these skills, number one, I would just say, like, all of me wants to say customer service, but the other part of me wants to say empathy, like just empathy for the consumer. You got to know what's going on with them, what's going on for them. You have to have, I guess if it was a skill set, you have to have a diagnostic mindset. Like you're here, the consumer is here for a reason. There's a reason that somebody's looking for a vehicle. There's a reason that I have the opportunity to answer this call. There's a reason for this lead. And just having that mindset or having that skill set to get down to what is the actual problem that I'm solving here. For some people, it's my daughter just turned 16. For some people, I'm expanding my business and I need another work truck or van. For some people, it's I just got into it or I'm having a baby or whatever it might be, right? But just knowing what I'm actually trying to figure, how can I solve the problem that somebody in front of me has? I would say that would probably be number one. Number two, no matter how much you care for the client, no matter how all the amazing skills you have, if you don't know how to buy a vehicle, you will never, I think, know how to sell one. You got to have a product. You got to have a product that the market needs, right? That means, for example, you were doing this podcast during tax season. A lot of people don't need $100,000, right? They need something a little bit more economical, something that they've been waiting for this time to invest this money into this vehicle that they can get. So it's got to be something economical. It's got to be something reliable. It's got to be something that's probably user friendly and things like that. So I think there's a skill to buy. And then not to get too long winded, so I'll do three, right? Top three. So number one, just being able to get to the bottom of the problem and solving the problem. Number two, being able to buy. And then I would say number three would just be, just an immense work ethic, just knowing that you have to go that extra mile, because there's average dealerships everywhere, right? And
For sure.
Average businesses everywhere, not even just dealerships, the average businesses everywhere. And I think the consumers are eager to find somebody who just is going to do a little bit more and go the extra mile and just meet them with where their needs are at. And that could be just in the form of dropping something off to them, picking something up for them. It could be in the form of, let me communicate with you without you being here. Let me do something online over the phone for you. And when I say work ethic, I think a lot of minds go directly to working super hard. It could be just like wanting to put in the work of letting the consumer have some control of the process versus you having to have every single obstacle in front of them to be able to do business. I would wrap it up at those three, man.
Dude, absolute pure gold, man. In those three, that's huge, man. Really good stuff. I'm going to toss it back to Patrick. Patrick, what do you want to ask Rahim?
So I'm curious how in the 8 or 9 years that you've been in this world and working your way up, Rahim, how has technology changed how you do business?
Man, I would say technology not only has it changed my business, but it runs my business, right? In the day, for those who haven't been to my dealership like Marco, I haven't had the awesome opportunity to have you here yet, but Patrick, you've been here. Right? It's a behemoth, right? Imagine 4 acres, all indoors. Every vehicle is inside. It's just like a candy land of vehicles. One day we had internet go out and the dealership could not operate. Our dealership could not operate, not for once. It couldn't serve one client. I didn't even realize how serious it was. Our phones, I had no idea our phones work off the internet.
Yeah.
Like our landline is working off the internet. Every single sales cubicle was out. No leads coming in, no leads going out, no messages coming in. A customer was in the building wanting to buy a vehicle. I couldn't even print out the paperwork to let them get the vehicle and leave.
But when everything is working, is it easier? Is it harder to do business as you did before the internet was so heavily relied upon?
I would say no, man. I would say it's definitely easier with it. So a couple of things, like back to the question at his hand, like what is technology actually doing for us? Technology is allowing me to serve clients that are not right next door. Somebody doesn't have to, like I had the awesome opportunity. Actually, last week I had the awesome opportunity. I served somebody in Nebraska. I served somebody in Arkansas, and I served somebody in Texas. I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that without technology. They were able to jump on my website. They were able to find the vehicle they liked on my website. They were able to audit that vehicle against all the hundreds of, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but at least thousands of vehicles like mine around the United States. They were able to fill out an application online. They were able to get on a phone call. Sometimes as a consumer, right, I've been a buyer at a different dealership, and sometimes I can't even get a chance to speak to somebody that is a decision maker while I'm a person. But the fact that a consumer can do that over the phone with our company, they paid an entire down payment via wire transfer or credit card using the invoice. The bank is mailing them a contract. They're docu-signing it, right? Then they're sending it back. Now everything is done now. I'm arranging a pickup. Then somebody else is coming to pick it up, dropping off my vehicle, picking up their trade-in, bringing it back, right? Without technology, I would never be, not even in a situation to help them, but I would never even be in contact. You know what I mean? I just think technology just brought a full circle just for businesses in general, just to be able to, if your goal really is to help more people and do it faster, it's with technology.
Yeah, that's huge, right?
Here, I want to go to this, my favorite question. How do you balance the needs of your customers with the needs of your business? How do you determine pricing and inventory levels that meet customer demand while also maximizing your profits and your interests?
Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I forgot exactly who I heard say this, but somebody at a seminar or convention or something said that if it's the right thing to do for the customer, it's the right thing to do for your dealership. And that is just something that just got engraved in my head. So like, how do I do the best for the customer needs and still being able to make a profit and help my team grow and help my business grow, right? For me, and this is something I really learned from Glenn Lundy and the 800% Club, is number one, volume is going to solve everything, right? If I just do enough business, all the problems are going to take care of itself, right? For example, when it comes to pricing, I'm not going to be the guy that's screaming on top of a mountain saying that I'm going to be the cheapest price.
You're not going to scream from the mountaintop saying that you're the lowest price.
I'm not going to scream from the mountaintop saying that I'm going to be the lowest price, but I'm making an effort to be the best value in a 250-mile radius, right? That's one thing that I'm going to do for the consumer. I'm not going to be here trying to gouge them on price. I don't need to make don't get me wrong. I would love to make all the money on every single, but I'm looking at it more than just one deal, right? It's not about what one vehicle or one consumer is going to do for me. It's what all of them are going to do for me. So I really had to learn early on that, hey, if I make all the money on one customer upfront in the first deal, I won't be able to do business with them again 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the line. And a lot of people are, in my opinion, going to learn that after COVID, right? When all the prices were super high and all those customers got made all the money upfront, won't even be able to, even if they're ready to buy something, you won't be able to serve them. So that's the first place I started, is making sure, number one, that everything that we sell is going to be a fair price. It's not going to be the lowest price, right? But it's going to be fair in comparison to all the other value I'm bringing. Number two, everything is going to be upfront, right? We're going to make sure that, hey, if I have a Carfax, it's on my website. If the vehicle has any dings, scratches, anything like that, we're going to show the client, right? We have 50 pictures online of each vehicle. All of my sales reps, they take a video of each vehicle, right? And they send it to their clients, right? We're going to be super upfront about everything that we do here. Now, doing all of that, I can ask a little bit more, right? My consumer is going to pay a little bit more. I've provided my consumer, I don't have a vending machine here, right? You come in, you want some snacks, you want something to drink, you just get it, right? You're not fumbling for a credit card, you're not putting some quarters in the machine. You have an indoor facility, right? If you need to get underneath something, you're not on a gravel lot, right? If you need to take something to go check it out by a mechanic, I have dealers road down, right? I have a bunch of franchise dealerships right outside of my store, and I'll take it for you, right? The value that I'm going to provide is going to be so high that when I ask for a little bit of money, it's just not a big deal, right?
Yeah, fantastic.
Consumers understand, right? It's a business. I think that they just want to be treated right. My opinion is they just want the best treatment, and they want to know, no matter what they're buying, whether they're buying something for $1,000 or something for $100,000, that their business is important. And that's how my dealership is going to succeed and exceed, is I'm going to put the customer first. So that way, when it comes time to ask for the money, it's just an easy yes. You've provided me so much value. Why wouldn't I do business?
And what you just said right there strikes me as some of your best advice for someone who is a little bit younger than you and a little bit on the same path as you were a few years ago as a dealer. Would you say that's the biggest thing? Focusing on the customer, as far as lessons you could tell someone who would be following in your footsteps, right? Like someone who right now was right where you were. What would you say to them? Could you give me a little bit more, something else, like maybe more specific? You were pretty specific right there, but I'm digging right now. What else would you give as advice to someone in the automotive world?
I would say it depends on where we're at in the automotive world, right? If I'm talking to a salesperson, if I'm talking to somebody who's in finance or something like that,
yeah,
I'm definitely telling them, put the customer first. Go ahead and figure out what their needs are, what's important to them. Give them so much value, right? Give them so much value that everything else, it just doesn't even matter, right? If I had the opportunity to sell Patrick a vehicle or Marco a vehicle, right, and they're not right next door, they're going to get a full video. They're going to get the things that they didn't ask for. You ask for a picture, I'm going to send you a video. You ask me if the vehicle's been in an accident, I'm going to send you a Carfax report, right? You ask me for one thing, I'm going to do 10 without you asking, and I'll provide that much value. But now if I were to say, if I'm talking to somebody in the auto industry and somebody who's leading the team, maybe a sales manager, maybe a general manager, maybe an owner, I wouldn't give the same advice. I would say put your employees first. I've learned from people like Patrick at Beaver Toyota, if you have happy employees, you have happy clients. So it depends on who I'm speaking to. So if I'm speaking to somebody who's in there, who's my first line of defense, sales, finance, things like that, I'm telling them to put the customer first. If I'm speaking to somebody who's more on the macro, who's leading people, I'm telling them to put their team first, right? Because as long as they're taking care of their team, is going to want to go fight for them out there and take care of their clients. That's my opinion.
I think there's a lot of things that I want to ask, man, but out of respect for Rahim's time, I think we should start winding it down because the guy's running a very successful business over there.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got plenty to do. So we'll just wrap up here with a couple of final questions, Rahim. And I like to leave things on somewhat of a lighter note. Obviously, you're busy. You probably spend a lot of time at that dealership. You're in a very demanding line of business. But what do you do when you finally get some downtime, man? What does your downtime look like? Who do you spend it with? What might we see Rahim doing on a day off?
So that is an awesome question, man, because I think what most people, they don't even realize, right? What could be going on the days off? I like to eat, man. I like to eat all kinds of food. So on a day off, I'm definitely making it a point. My wife and I are trying to go somewhere to eat, trying to order some food, something like that, right? I just like the simpler things. I don't think it really gets better than kicking your feet up on the couch and just taking a breathe, a nap in the middle of your day. Just makes all the sense to me. I try to definitely do like something like a cars and coffee or caffeine and octane, something like that. Definitely still car guys at art, right? That's the got me in the business. So still trying to stay true to that hobby, but just on a day off, it's just a disconnect. The reason, in my opinion, I'm so excited to be back here, the days I am here, is because on the days that I'm not here, I'm not mentally here, I'm not thinking about it. All my clients that need to be served, they're still all going to be here on Monday morning. All problems that we're looking to solve are still going to be here on Monday morning. All the opportunities that we're looking to maximize on are still going to be here. And I think I've learned from the great Jim Rohn, don't want to be at work at the beach and don't want to be at the beach at works.
There you go. I love that, man. I love that. Before we wrap up, Rahim, I'd love to hear your thoughts on TurboPass. Obviously, you're a partner of TurboPass, and I just want to ask you, how has using it impacted your dealership? And as well, I think probably more importantly, what about the car buying experience for your customers with being able to use TurboPass? Can you share a little bit of your thoughts on that?
And absolutely. And if I can, I'm going to share a story of why I'm using
Please do.
So I was in an unfortunate situation where I had a client come in. She had her kids with her. She really looked like she needed some help. She needed a work truck for her family's business. It was definitely not an easy deal by any means, trying to find the perfect vehicle, fits her budget. She has enough money to invest for a down payment, all that kind of stuff. We find it, go over numbers, everything works out for her, right? Really shave as much as we could to make it happen for her. She writes me a check for a down payment for her stips. She needed proof of income, right? So I said, okay, no problem. I can take the check because I'm going to see the bank statement anyway. And I'll see how much money is in the bank account. It was earlier on in the month, so I knew that I would get last month's statement and I'll be able to see exactly how much money was in there. She had a pretty huge chunk of money going in, but most business owners do. And just because they have a ton of money going in doesn't mean they make a lot of it. So I was like, okay, cool. But she did have a ton of money going in. I took the check, released my vehicle. Everything seems good, right? I really felt like I helped somebody out. Next morning, my check bounces, $5,000 check bounces, right? 2-3 hours later, right? Everything is done electronically, right? We've contracted the customer. We sent in the bank statements, everything like that. And I was just like, yo, I can't reach her. She's not picking up my call. She's not picking up my text. She's blocked the dealership number. I have a vehicle out on the street. I have no money for it. And now I really don't even have a contract, right? Because a part of the contract is receiving that money down. So I have nothing. I pretty much let somebody walk into my dealership and deal with it. And I knew that I would never put myself in that position again, right? Just because she was not the most honest person doesn't mean there aren't people like that out there that need help, but I just needed to do it a little bit better and I needed to protect my business. I don't know exactly how I fell across TurboPass, but it's totally changed my life, right? Because it's a couple things that go into it that allow me to operate the way we are, right? Number one, store name is Motorvation Trucks. Most of my clients are business owners. If you're a business owner or you're 1099 and you're financing a vehicle, 9 times out of 10, most banks, if they ask for any proof of income, they're going to ask for 3 months bank statements, business or personal, right? TurboPass is super simple. I don't need one of my sales reps to be all over somebody's phone because when they want to help you out and sometimes you can't figure it out, they're like, hey, they're trying to see your phone. They're trying to point at your phone where you got to click this and that. And I just feel that's just not, the privacy is not there. You don't want, as much as you might trust somebody or want the help from someone, it's just, you feel some kind of way showing your bank account to someone, no matter what, whether you have tons of money in there or no money in there. Yep. Just feel some kind of way doing that. So the reason I love TurboPass And one of my managers, right, my salesperson will go up, hey, I've got John and Sally in the building. Can you send them a turbo pass? And my sales manager sends out a turbo pass. Super quick, super simple, right? I got John's first name, last name, his phone number, put in a PIN number for John to be able to use. John gets on his phone, punches in, gets the link, punches in his code, logs in. And without anybody else ever printing anything, emailing anything, without the information falling into any hands, not even the wrong hands, right or wrong, just any other hands, boom, we've got electronic copy. Now that we don't even really need to print, that we can just upload to the bank. What the other thing that it's done for me is now I could take a check from somebody like that, right? Because the other thing that TurboPass does, it doesn't just tell me what somebody's income is. It tells me how much money is in that account right now, right? I could get a huge deposit yesterday, and by the time I get to a business today and write a check, it's all gone. But it's very hard for me to write a check right now and it'd be all gone by the time this check is deposited, right? Because I'm seeing live. I'm not seeing last month's ending balance. I'm seeing live what is in the account right now, right? And then other than the protection aspect, just from the business aspect, right? If I'm doing business with most of these banks that use TurboPass, right? I really don't need proof of residence, right? That's checked up front. I don't need a job employment because that's on there. If you're getting a direct deposit, now they can see that, hey, the direct deposit is not only in there, but I see it coming. It just takes away so much of the friction from the experience, in my opinion. It's just smooth, it's easy, it's paperless for the most part. I think it's an awesome product, super awesome product. And I don't even see a day in our dealership without it.
That is awesome, dude. Thank you, Rahim, man. This has been a lot of fun today. What a great opportunity to talk to you. From my point of view, to have been able to meet you. Patrick had nothing but great things to say about you before we kick this off. And I can definitely see why. I can also see why you are running the show over there, because your energy, man, and your passion for what you do, it really comes through. And even just in this short little podcast, man. So thank you so much again for joining us here today. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Marco, Patrick, man, it's been an awesome time. My first podcast ever. So I really appreciate you guys helping me even be on a platform like this, helping me just share my story. That's super cool, man. I really appreciate that.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can have you back again one day.
Oh, man, I'll be honored.
Yep.
All right, guys, that does it for another episode of the Auto Dealer Influencers podcast. We will catch you here next time.
You've been listening to the Auto Dealer Influencers podcast, brought to you by TurboPass USA. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, please visit turbopassusa.com/podcast.